It is time for another incredible week in the stock market. We need to talk about it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. And do you suppose that mice floss their teeth with string cheese? All right, we're going to take a look at SPY, QQQ. We'll also take a look at the 10-year yields and the strength of the US dollar. We'll bring that into our discussion that we have today, and then also Bitcoin, Enphase, Tesla, and Nvidia as they have their earnings this week. Nvidia specifically, that is. So let me pop up the SPY that we have here. So tracking the S&P 500, you can see we climbed up to new highs in SPY, and in the pre-market hours here, we're up above where we closed last week. I anticipate that this could be a very good week for us, and we'll see up until Wednesday in the after hours what exactly that brings for us, as I believe the Nvidia earnings are going to be pretty critical for telling us about those AI plays. So moving over to Qs, even more impacted by things like big tech and Nvidia being at the pinnacle of that. You can see we got a high top wick over here going back to Thursday of last week, and then Friday coming down and testing support at about 449. Up at 452, almost 453 in the pre-market hours as we watch this take place. Again, a lot of Fed speeches coming out today, but it'll still be pretty good for us. I said that we would take a look at the strength of the US dollar, DXY. Check out this chart. Let me reset that view so we can see it. You can see we are sort of building up right now. We got a little bit of a consolidating pattern happening right now, but still finding down about support at the moment. This dropping could be bullish for stock. So we want to break down below this bottom trend line as you see it right now. And the recent strength that we have in the market does correlate with what we have here in the strength of the US dollar. As you can see, we double topped, bouncing, getting rejected off that resistance up there. But now we need to break down below this 200-day that you see on here. We are down below the 50-day. I also said that we would take a look at the 10-year yields. This one you're going to see similarly that we were down near support before. As a matter of fact, we even had a bear flag on this one. Sold down, hit that 200-day, found support. But let's look for that rejection off the 50-day. If we see those softening numbers here, that could be, in the short term anyway, bullish for the stock markets as we watch the yields. Now, mind you, yields for bonds move inversely to the prices of those bonds. So if we see a flight to safety, which is something that ends up increasing the demand for those bonds and then decreasing the yield on those bonds, a far enough drop on this and it actually turns bearish for the markets because then it signals a flight to safety. But right now that question is about servicing U.S. debt. And so this is one that we actually want to see drop in the near term for continued strength in the markets. Let's move over into Bitcoin. Bitcoin broke up above the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders. We're up above the 50-day. We got some EMA crosses, the faster EMAs over the slower ones. That's a bullish thing. But now across these three tops, we're getting that resistance coming in, and we're sort of showing a bit of a bull flag here. We're going to have to watch that. We do need continued momentum in the RSI. When I see that continuing to grow, and then we're going to see if we're taking on that all-time high of 74,000. I do think that it is highly possible, especially if we can get over this most recent resistance, that we start to see that that break up above that. I think that will be the thing that takes us up over 74, up to 74,000 per BTC. And then it's a matter of, do we put a new all-time high from there, or do we just retest the previous all-time high and then get rejected? We're going to have to be watching for that. Enphase does not want to break this top trend line, although I wanted to break this top trend line as I am bullish on Enphase for the long term. Even if we do have some short-term pain in this, I do dollar cost average in this over time. We do have a compression, a squeezing of all these moving averages. And if I bring up the Bollinger Bands, as I start talking about the compression of these Bollinger Bands, this narrowing that we have, there could be a breakout coming soon. Right now, it's, well, a couple days ago, I should say, Thursday of last week, even going back as early as Tuesday of last week. When we look at that, we had that cross up above the 50. We really need to break above like 57 to 58 in the RSI when we can see continued building of that momentum, and especially the breaking of this top trend line to see further bullishness coming out. I do have a call option out on this one, and if we are able to break out above that top trend line, I think it's going to pay off very handsomely for that call option, as I believe there's significant upside to be had, and especially if we get the dropping of that treasury yield, and if we see the weakening US dollar. I think both those things with the markets can certainly be helpful for what we see here for Enphase as well. Moving over into Tesla. Tesla's still up above its 50-day SMA, and it closed above the 50-day EMA on Friday. Let me stretch it out more so we can see it, and I have my drawing tools on. Let me remove that. There we go. So when we look at this chart, we're up above the 50 EMA, which is here in red. The green's above the yellow moving average, so that's the 5 above the 13. Getting that cross with the 5 and the 13 over the 50, those are bullish things for us. We're going to be on the lookout for that. We are still a bit mixed for Tesla. As we look at its chart, we don't necessarily have a totally clear indication of direction being down below the 200-day, we are still on a longer term a bearish trend. Being up above the 50s is something that could signal that maybe some sort of reversal is nearby. The RSI did dip down below 50 recently and then move back up above it, but we still have a little bit of sideways trading with some volatility that we had in between for Tesla. So we have to be watching this for that near term. Keep in mind a few things: deliveries at the beginning of June that we hear from China, that we could see some color from Tesla on that one. We want to see any sort of strength returning for that. And then quarterly deliveries July 2nd for Tesla is also something that we would be watching for. And then we have Tesla earnings towards the end of July. So that's looking down the road from where we're at right now and things that can be highly impactful to Tesla stock. And then finally, Nvidia. I've updated my earnings prediction the way that I display it here, still at $1,000 per share, leading up to earnings, which is on Wednesday of this week, which would be a significant upside. In the pre-market hours, we're trading at 937. So we're not too far away right now from, we just need to make it another, what, $50 or $60? Well, I should say from here about $62, $63 up to that amount. And that is not a huge, that's like a 6 to 7%, which is incredible for a single week for a stock. And now, mind you, we've climbed up from below 800 to getting close to mid nines. And you can see that we got rejected 3 times, making this trend line across the top here. We do have to break up above that. And we are adding pressure from the bulls to what the bears are putting out here for us. And so either up to earnings or just following earnings, we could see that $1,000 price tag come out. And if we see it beforehand, I think there's a significant chance that we sell coming out of earnings. We're just going to have to watch and see what happens for that. And this is something highly impactful that could impact the rest of the market, especially where the NASDAQ 100 is concerned and where big tech is concerned and all the AI and the infrastructure plays that we have out there. That if there's any signs whatsoever that demand is slowing down or that the margin is something that is starting to shrink for them, that is changing any sort of growth story, that growth trajectory for Nvidia. Now, mind you, I don't think it's done growing, but if we grow at a slower rate, then that's something that I think would be detrimental to where we see that stock price at least in the near term. So we're going to have to see what exactly came out for it, what we're seeing for any sort of orders for the Blackwell series coming out, the H200s, continuing demand for the H100s. And so we want to hear from that and really just watch and see what we're getting out of it margin-wise and then revenue-wise. And then, of course, what we're looking for that profit, the earnings per share is also part of that. But then the guidance is going to be one of the biggest things that we're looking for Nvidia. I think the numbers themselves for this quarter are still going to be blown out of the water. I still think it's going to be incredible. They'll probably get a significant beat out of it. But then, like I said, it's about the growth story. How long does that go? And what we need is a growth story for the foreseeable future. So at least through the end of 2025 is what we want to hear for, that there's that continued demand. If there's any sign of weakening demand or that we have that margin compression between it now and then, that's something that can negatively impact Nvidia stock. So guys, those are my thoughts and of what I'm watching on this market, my thoughts on Nvidia, and also some things to look for throughout the week. And if you guys want to hear more of my commentary, see my buys and sells, how I'm playing this market, you can see the link for the Patreon down in the description. Click that, sign up, come on over to the Discord. That's where I post my buys and sells and I interact with my community members. And then also, if you learn to do technical analysis like I do, there's a link down in the description for a technical analysis trading course to take your trading game to the next level. As always, guys, I really do appreciate your time. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.